Welcome back to the Non-League GOALMOUTH Non-League Papers weekly YouTube show. I'm joined by our executive editor, John Couch, and our man in the north, Mark Carruthers. How are you, chaps?
Yeah, good, thank you. You all right?
Very good. Pleased that football is back. You're back from your holidays, Couchy.
Yeah.
Football is back. The season that we've been talking about for so long is now fully underway. And what caught the eye, maybe we should start with you, Mark. Let's go straight to the International Stadium. And last week's opening game that you kind of were telling us that it was bringing back lots of memories of the final day of last season and a terrible game between Gateshead and Southend. The fixture computer pitted the two together again, and you saw some goals this time. Southend coming away 3-0 winners.
Yeah, it didn't take long at all to get those goals. Southend were really impressive, really strong physically. Didn't really give Gateshead any time on the ball. Really, probably could have been 3-0 up inside 10 minutes. Gateshead just couldn't cope with the physical side of it. I think there's a need for experience and physicality in midfield. Maybe at the top end of the pitch as well. Just looked completely overrode. But I thought Southend, right the way through the side, were very good. I still think they'll be in and around the playoffs. I still think they'll push the kind of favoured three that we've all spoken about at the very top end of the division. And it was just a bit of an eye-opener, I think, was how Alan Armstrong described it for Gateshead. But, Kevin Mayer and Southend will be absolutely delighted to get off to that start.
Yeah, I always feel like a team that's lost in the playoff final and had all that disappointment, you want to kind of get that first. It's obvious to say you want to get a win on the board anyway, but it feels even more important, doesn't it, on that opening day of the season, just to get off to a nice start. And that was obviously a real nerve settler for them as well to begin in that manner. Not top of the league. I think Braintree finished the day top of the league, didn't they, with their 3-0 win over Halifax on top of the league on in the alphabet basically. But great win for Steve Pitt's side against FC Halifax as well to kick them off.
Yeah, perfect.
It was.
I'll catch you go.
Yeah, I'd say. I mean, that was one of the standout games for me. I was watching from afar, but watching pretty intensely as well. And Braintree, every time I looked up, Braintree just seemed to have scored again. And I thought, whoa, what a great start that is for Steve Pitt and Braintree. I mean, there's been a lot of talk about Halifax. I don't really know what to expect from them this year, but Braintree sort of kind of gone off the radar a little bit. I think people have sort of written them off a little bit. Haven't done too much in the summer, but what a great way to start the season for them. And delighted for them.
I'm picturing you on your sunbed couchy, sort of scrolling through.
I was in like a little cafe bar with a couple of Belper Town fans, and I think everyone must have been looking at me thinking, look at that weirdo. He's coming all the way on holiday in Corfu and he's looking at non-league football results. Kind of hours ahead.
John Couch and on the GOALMOUTH on that's pretty what it was, isn't it?
Well, yeah, hopefully we'll get a few more viewers out of it. But it was good. It was a different way of spending opening day. But good to see football up and running again.
Yeah, I think another result that kind of stands out was Brackley's win against Eastleigh. Obviously, I've spoken to Shane Byrne, who scored the winning penalty, what turned out to be the winning penalty for this week's paper. And, you sort of Brackley's kind of the context of them being in this division is 7 years of heartache in the playoffs, which is kind of unbelievable, really, that they've had. Can't be many teams who've been as successful through league seasons as they have and consistently had these sort of top end finishes throughout the in the National League North throughout the years, and also had great FA Cup runs. Obviously won the FA Trophy in that time as well. They've been really, to say they've been knocking on the door of step one is an understatement. But then to come up and get their first win, and
was it 7 years running? Was it in the playoffs?
I think it was 7 years. There's obviously the COVID year when step two got started and didn't finish, didn't it? Step one.
That's incredible consistency, though, isn't it? I mean, and Gaz Dean's been there throughout most of that, hasn't he?
I think he's been pretty much there the whole time. And sort of Shane Byrne sort of mentioned him because Shane's obviously he was there and then went away to Kiddie for a couple of years, and then he came back last year. help them win the National League North. But yeah, Gaz Dean's been there the whole time, and Shane mentioned sort of for someone like him to be leading the team out after all that and all the sort of the ups and downs they've had. Sort of brought back memories though, Mark, of when of COVID. Talking about COVID, of that playoff against Gateshead when Shane Byrne scored that unbelievable equaliser straight from the halfway line, straight from kickoff after Gateshead had scored at the end of the first half. But that was one of the sort of most surreal. That was certainly my first sort of behind closed doors COVID game. I assume it was probably yours as well.
Yeah, it was. And trying to commentate on it wasn't easy. Obviously, with no sound in the background except players' voices and coaches' voices, and that sort of sterile environment that we went into, where we couldn't sit within, well, what felt like about 50 feet of each other.
I just sort of go into like boxes when we went into the stadium. We were going standing like taped off boxes, and then like sort of move around the state, like we led around the stadium. It was such a strange, because it was the first time we'd sort of.
And then I had to make a perilous climb onto a gantry, which I'm still not sure how I did it to this day. But it wasn't necessarily getting up; it was getting down, because it was just it was a risk. It was the risk hazards all over the place. But
there's some people behind the goal watching it in trees, weren't they? Sort of over the fence, and some fans and stuff. So
it was probably safer than I was, to be fair. But I mean, look, with Brackley, it's probably no surprise that they've come into the National League with a clean sheet. I mean, you look at the defensive record in recent years in the National League North; it's been absolutely incredible. So, and I think the fact that they've beaten kind of a National League stalwart will be a big plus point for them. I mean, Eastleigh have obviously been in division for a number of years, so to get a home win, to keep a clean sheet, in front of a decent crowd there, and a historic occasion for the club, it feels like a really overwhelmingly positive start of the season.
It's going to be a difficult place to go, I think, this year, Brackley. It's going to be a real trip into the unknown, I think, for a lot of the clubs.
Yeah, I think like Mark says there, the fact their defence is so sort of mean generally every single year. They sort of, people like Gaz Dean, who just loves to defend. And
the fact, too, isn't it?
Exactly. You look at the results they've had over the years as well in cups and things. It's not like they've, not been better in a lot of teams in the Step 1 and obviously higher in FA Cups and things in the past anyway. So, yeah, really good positive result for Gav Cowan's side. They're not in action this week, so they were due to play Morecambe, so they're not in action this week. But yeah, lots of interesting results. I mean, obviously, it is that. I think always on the opening day you do get some sort of like mad ones. I mean, some things never change. Ollie Pearce was obviously on the score sheet for York fairly quickly. I think, although I did think he missed a penalty as well in that game against Sutton. But that was a good result for Sutton up there as well to go.
Great result for Sutton, yeah.
2-2. They sort of seem to be a bit of a bogey team for York, I think, Sutton, for whatever reason. There was a 2-2 at Solihull Forest Green as well, wasn't there? And you think Forest Green at Solihull lose a man early on, have a player sent off. You think it's all set up for them, but Solihull showed what they're about there as well.
Yeah. Again, I mean, and I think if you go a man down earlier on against a team like Forest Green, who under new management, I think they'll be well happy with that. Matt Taylor and Solihull, that shows a bit of character, a bit of steel. And and that's what they're going to need this year. So great result for them to come away with something in difficult circumstances.
Good win for Carlisle as well. Going a long journey to walk, and then getting a 2-0 again, clean sheet. Did you see by any chance Luke Armstrong's injury? Have you seen the photo of this?
I've seen the photo of his. He took a bit of a whack, did he?
He did, yeah. Obviously, I was talking to his dad last night at Gateshead, and he showed me the photo of the incident. So balls popped up, I think, on the goal line. He's gone to head it as the Woking keeper's on the floor, and he's basically kicked upwards and kicked Luke basically full on in the sort of nose-mouth area. Stitches everywhere, and not great. If anyone, I should say, if you're a little bit squeamish, I wouldn't have a look. But if you're curious to have a look, then it's on Carlisle socials. But with all due respect, not to Luke, it's not a pretty sight.
No.
Well, he got himself on the score sheet as well, didn't he? So he'd be be happy. Again, he's another one who sort of reminds me of those COVID years in that sort of that final when he scored for Hartlepool and that mad final at Torquay when sort of fans were starting to be let back in the grounds. It was a sort of a limited capacity. Although there was an awful lot of Hartlepool fans who made that trip down to Bristol City. But yeah, I think it's like funny with Carlisle, isn't it? Because you kind of everyone sort of sits there and you're like, well, it's going to be tough, the National League, and you got Woking. That's not an easy game, and it wasn't.
Yeah.
But then to go down there and win 2-0 is kind of, obviously the challenges will keep coming. They got Bournemouth this weekend, I think. So
yeah.
The thing is, as well, though, they've got a squad full of players with experience of the level. So, obviously, as you say, Luke's played at this level. They've got players like Kedwin Scott's still there. He's played at this level. So there are players that are,
Regan Linney, yeah,
Regan Linney, of course, yeah. I mean, they've got players who are more than capable of shining at this level. So I think that'll help. And there's a lot of talk about the managers never managed at this level, but when you've got a dressing room full of players with that experience, it's only going to help.
Yeah,
one of the
100%.
results that really struck me as well was Rochdale. Rochdale going to Bournemouth and winning 2-0. I mean, no one wants to go to Bournemouth first game of the season. Rochdale obviously missed out on the playoffs last year, but I think they've recruited really, really well over the summer. I'm sort of one of those clubs I'm sort of interested just to see sort of how they're going to fare. Again, potentially they could challenge the big 3/4 this year, and to go to Bournemouth and win 2-0 on the opening day. Our man Manny de Cerveret, I think I pronounced that right. 2 goals. That man knows how to score, doesn't he, in the National League? And up and running nice and early. They look pretty decent. And they're on telly on Saturday lunchtime. They kick us all off again with a home game against Altrincham. That'll be a nice big local derby up there. And I reckon that'll be a decent game.
That'll be a tasty one. It's maybe a decent few goals like Altrinham's first game, obviously against Aldershot, that 3-2. A bit of a mad one up there as well. So that was a good start for them. And sort of kind of going through as well, you've got obviously Wealdstone getting off to a win as well. Pleased for Sam Cox. He's obviously been interim manager there before. Had his spell at Oxford City last year at the start of last season, but back at Wealdstone where he club.
Bit of a worry for Truro.
Well, you don't know. It's hard to sort of
say.
I mean, they kind of. Yeah, I mean, obviously they got York this weekend at home, and that'll be, a real big fanfare. It'll be interesting to see how that goes. That'll be, obviously a huge game to have your first home, on home turf for the first time at this level. And what with a York team coming down, who obviously John Askey knows as well from his time managing them as well. Knows the club, doesn't he? And obviously had success there, so I'm sure it'll be good.
You get the feeling that Saturday's games aren't really Saturday's game's not really going to define their season, but Wealdstone away might do. But
yeah, that's the thing. It's definitely. I think Wealdstone will definitely be very happy that they've come out of that and that sort of style. And Scunthorpe obviously come up and won as well, haven't they? 2-1 at Tamworth, which again is a good result for them. And the only game of the day that had no goals was Yeovil Hartlepool. So.
Long way to go for a goalless draw. That
it is, but at the same time, I think it's a good result. Going down to Yeovil and keeping a clean. I'm mentioning clean sheets a lot, aren't I? Keeping a clean sheet, getting a point in Simon Grayson's first game in charge with kind of a much changed Hartlepool side. So that gives them a bit of a platform to build on ahead of the coming weeks. So I don't think it's it's not great making that journey to see nothing happen or not a lot happen, but at the same time I think Pools will be delighted to get a point and get things off on a positive.
Any other results that sort of stood out for you on the opening day particularly? I mean, you sort of think Merthyr winning their first game in National North. One that stood out for me was
Harbour Town was one in MPL Premier 4-0 home win against Needham Market. Harbour again, they were very lucky to miss out on the playoffs last year, and I thought that was a cracking result. Yeah,
exactly. That was obviously Southern Premier Central. That one I saw Southern Premier.
Sorry.
Yes, I saw my first Southern Premier Central game of the season on Tuesday night. As I said earlier, went to Bury Town and saw them win their first game back at Step 3 against Royston. A club who've sort of been quite well established now at this level. So a good first win of the season for Bury. I think they lost on the opening day to Stourbridge, but Chamal Ramadan, who's scored goals for him for quite a few years. Yeah, he's still there, and he popped in the penalty. I'm sure I sort of go and watch them quite a few times. I feel like they always get penalties down at Bury for some reason. I think that's sort of like, probably no scientific and factual evidence to back that up, but I feel like I've seen him score quite a few penalties. I think I have seen him miss one possibly, but when he steps up, invariably you think it's going to end up in the back of the net. I'm probably going to go a bit put my Arsene Wenger long trench coat on and say I didn't actually see the penalty. It sounds like it was a bit of a disputed one, but I was doing what you were doing in Corfu Couch. I was looking down, seeing what other results were coming in, and the penalty been given. Where did you get out to, Mark, in midweek? Been out to a couple of games, haven't you?
Yeah, so Tuesday night I was at a historic moment for Blythe Town. Not so long ago, we're in the Northern Alliance, but now for the first time in the history in the Northern Premier League East. Played against Dunstan, which really couldn't have been a harder first home game. The side that have lost the last two playoff finals on penalties, and kind of went with expectations, if I'm honest. Dunstan, good performance in a 2-0 win. Blythe looked a little bit overawed first 45 minutes, but I think second half improved, just didn't really do enough to get back into the game. But a great moment, a good crowd. I think it was over 400 there. A big season for them. They haven't had the greatest start, losing at Brighouse on Saturday, and then obviously that game on Tuesday night, being put out the FA Cup as well by the Northern League club in Horden. So it has been a great start for Blythe Town, but there's enough there, saw enough in the second half on Tuesday night to know that they will improve as the season goes on. But the real interesting thing about that game was Dunstan. I mean, like I say, coming on the back of 2 consecutive playoff final defeats on penalties, it was always going to be interesting to see how their season started. And they've got 2 wins out of 2, haven't conceded a goal yet, 3 goals scored. So, John McDonnell had a good chat with them after the game, and just delighted with the reaction after what happened last season in particular. And I think they'll be there or thereabouts again this year. I look at the squad. He's brought in some younger players to supplement the squad, and they're really developing with every passing game. So it's going to be an interesting season for Dunstan, and one that I think will hold a lot of excitement for them.
It goes to show those sort of fine margins in football, doesn't it? We hear people talk about ourselves, but to be in penalties in 2 finals is just really cruel. And that's kind of going back to Brackley. That was kind of that sort of situation they were in. Sometimes they're getting in the final and just narrowly falling on the wrong side of a game. They sometimes getting beaten before that stage, but the way they went up in the end was obviously by winning the title. But it's the playoffs are just so knife edge that it can fall either way. And I think that is, as you say, the thing to get yourself back up for it for next year to go again and repeat is not easy. It's not easy.
Yeah, it's tough. I see Stockton had a good result as well, didn't they, in midweek? Yeah,
and after what I would say is a fairly solid result at Prescott Cables on the first day of the season, had Amar Purewell sent off, which isn't the most ideal start to his time with the club, but to bounce back. Can you bounce back from a draw? You don't really, do you? To build on that with a big win against Workington in midweek. I spoke to Stockton on here last week, and one of the players I really admire there is Kevin Hayes, winger, who I think hopefully will go higher with Stockton, but could certainly play higher. Seems to have hit the ground running this season. So yeah, good start for them after what happened at the end of last season. Yeah,
again, not easy to get yourselves kind of motivated through the summer and get over that disappointment. But the best way of doing it, I guess, is out on the pitch, isn't it? So, and on where last night you saw a few goals as well, didn't you? Back at the International Stadium again.
Oh, is this us finally getting around to discussing the National League?
National League Cup.
Well, yeah.
It actually got underway last Saturday when Boston played, but it swung into action in the week, including Rochdale with their 1:00 kickoff. I think it was yesterday. I can't remember, yesterday or Tuesday. But yeah, you saw Gateshead.
I saw that. I thought it was a misprint.
You're counting the fixtures in the non-league paper, surely not.
Well, yeah. I mean, not that we do misprints, but I mean, on this occasion, I thought maybe it might have been a misprint.
It was very much
obviously not our fault.
The mentions on social media would suggest otherwise, wouldn't they? But anyway, Gateshead Newcastle was it was a really good game, to be honest. Obviously, I went to a few games in the competition last year, and how can I put this kindly? It wasn't great. It wasn't great. We'll put it that way. I'll be nice. But last night, yeah, I mean, Gateshead obviously looking to react after Saturday's poor performance, and Newcastle's under-21s full of players who have been in and around the first team in pre-season. And it kind of, I would say, surpassed expectations. 4-3 win for Newcastle, who were 3-1 down at one point. The one thing I will say, which I found quite funny, was a little bit of talk about Newcastle playing, Newcastle's youngsters playing against a more experienced Gateshead side. But by the end of the game, Gateshead had just as young a side out, if not younger than Newcastle, with 17, 18-year-olds playing. So, really good game, 4-3 last-minute winner for Newcastle. And I think both sides will take massive positives out of it.
Yeah, I think talking to Shane Byrne at Brackley, they obviously went with quite an experienced team, Brackley, and they, against Blackburn, and maybe that was a bit of a wake-up call for some of the younger players in the competition of what it's like. It is obviously it's a competition that splits opinion. Is that a diplomatic way of saying it? I mean, it was interesting though this week that Sutton said that they made around sort of 100 grand, didn't they, from last year, sort of prize money and
plus another 40 plus, in terms of.
Yeah, I think overall it was about 100
commercial revenue.
Yeah, so some clubs obviously do see value in it and want to be in it. Obviously, those clubs who don't want to be in it and they've opted out. I think it was interesting, some of the subs this week. I think it was in that Rochdale. When was it? Did Ian Henderson come on after a minute for Rochdale, because you have the sort of the quotas on players who played in the previous game and what they have to do. I think there's I can't remember if it's Scunthorpe maybe changed some players after about 20 minutes as well. So
4 subs on 20 minutes, something like that. 3 or 4.
So obviously there's clubs that are in it are sort of managers are going to treat it the way they want to, but it's kind of one of those. Obviously a few games on the other night, but I'd much rather get out to a step 3-4 game and see what's going on.
I thought the crowds were a lot better.
Yeah, it didn't seem so bad.
Crowds on the opening game much improved on last year. I think the vibe around the whole competition is a lot happier. Not quite if you're Sutton United going all the way to the final last year, and talking about all these big positives, and then they go and get beat 7-0 at home by Fulham, which is not the ideal start for them. But early days still, obviously group stages, and they're obviously taking the competition pretty seriously after announcing those figures. And but Fulham weren't in understanding mood, I don't think, on Tuesday night.
Yeah, well, I think it's obviously some, helped Boston get a game in last week as well, didn't it? And it's people obviously have their opinions about it. I don't really know what my opinion about it is, to be honest. There always used to be a League Cup quite a few years ago, didn't there? And that's come in, and some clubs want to be in it and can earn some money from it and gets money into the game, then that's what they'll be pleased about. And those ones who don't want to, then obviously aren't in it. I know people have strong opinions, and that's great. That's what football's all about. But looking ahead to this coming weekend, before we get there, a little bit of admin. Make sure you like and subscribe this podcast, but also if you're going to get your entry into the on fantasy non-league, then this is the time is ticking. It's the time to get it in. There's
you get bonus points if you do it by the end of the month. Is that how it works?
I think the bonus points is before the season. Could be wrong. We need to get Ian White, who runs it onto the here to sort of explain it all possibly next week before. But you get some bonus points, and then by the end of the month, it's all closed, and you obviously get your sub windows later on in the year. But definitely, some people like to sort of play the game, get your teams in early to get your bonus points, or just kind of see how it's shaking out the first opening weeks of the season.
I think then bonus points are going to make a difference, because I speak to the fantasy winner sort of every year, and there's some people out there, very knowledgeable people out there so I think you're going to need every point you can get. There's some very clever people out there.
Yeah, as I said before, we put a team in once that couldn't win, just in case it did, and we were absolutely miles off it, nowhere near it. So it was no danger of
the league, even I wasn't trying to.
Yeah, well, that's your story of your fantasy football, your life, Gouchy. I'm above you in our own little one as well. So
you are, yeah, you are. I've just done my team for this week, though, Badders. So
we'll see.
Much changed.
We'll see. But yeah, big week. Like I said earlier, Rochdale Altrincham is kind of one that sticks out in National League, and we mentioned Truro welcoming York as well. Forest Green Yeovils, an interesting one with Mark Cooper, obviously back to Forest Green. Which I know would have been last year as well, but got history there, and we get on promoted into the Football League last time out. Anything that else is sort of you're looking forward to seeing at the weekend, and going to be keeping an eye out for?
Oh, yeah, I was looking at. I think there's a few actually this weekend. Scunthorpe Woking looks a good one to me. Scunthorpe playing in front of that passionate home support for the first time. Had a good win last week. That would have really got them going and put a few extra bums on seats, I think, for Saturday. Not an easy one for Woking. That they're going to need to bounce back as well after Carlisle, and I think that'll be a real tough test for them. And good to see where a good sort of leveler really to see where Scunthorpe are, because I'm not sure anyone really knows, but certainly with that crowd behind them, that'd be a tough game for Woking.
Yeah, 100%. I think also you look at Boston, obviously kicking their National League campaign off down at Aldershot as well. They had that such a brilliant finish to the season under Graham Coughlin to get out of trouble, and with when they were absolutely doomed, I think probably everyone pretty much written them off.
Yeah.
That by the time he come, I think they'd won 2 games out of their first 20 odd or whatever it was. So they stayed up with room to spare. Was quite some story, but they'll be looking to really take that momentum into the new season. Obviously, been quite a few changes there, and then transitioning into full time as well. So that's going to be an interesting one for them. And it's the way, obviously we know the way of the National League now, you have to sort of start moving to that full time. They're the latest ones to kind of go on that front. It's interesting, Brackley, if they've gone to an extra evening a week as well, because they feel like they just need that extra bit of contact time. So that'll be an interesting one. I think you look in the National League South at Horsham's first game at this home game at this level as well will be a fascinating one.
Good derby, big derby against Worthing.
Yeah, Worthing again, and get a side that kind of, it's kind of been on the same journey as them, coming up through the divisions, and then more than kind of established themselves at this level, haven't they? And been turning out players all over the place, and look through Football League lineups and see the former Worthing players going well. It's been quite some sort of story for them over the last few years. But where are you this Saturday, Mark?
FA Cup for me. FA Cup duty. Heading to an all Northern League tie between Berkeley Town and Shildon. Shildon, I think, much fancy for promotion this year. Should be a good crowd there. But I mean, to be fair, there were a number of ties around the region that I think are fascinating. There's Gisborough Town, who are one of the, from my money anyway, one of the favourites for the Northern League title. They've got Redcar Athletic at home. Now, Redcar have made an unbelievable start to the first season in Step 4. I mean, going to Blythe Spartans, winning 4-1 last week. And then midweek beating Heaton Stannington 3-0 is a great start for them. Kind of fully expected them to make a big impact in Step 4, because you look at their squad. I mean, they've got people like Adam Boyes, who scored goals for a number of years at higher levels. They've got good youth. They brought in a young lad from South Shields called Brian Taylor, left back, who I think is another one that would easily manage at a higher level. So there are a number of players. Oscar Fletcher in midfield, just someone who's extremely talented, really good on the ball. So I think there's a number of reasons why Redcar will have a good season, but this one's a really tricky test at Gisborough, because Gisborough brought in some some good players. They've got a good manager, Nathan Haslam, some more vast experience at higher levels. So that one should be a really interesting one. But it's just great again, isn't it, having the FA Cup? We spoke about it last week, having the FA Cup back at this stage where it's where it really matters.
Yeah, 100%. I think looking at that Stalybridge versus Bury as well being an all-ticket game, you know, how many other countries around the world have got an all-ticket game at this stage of their, you know, this level of the competitions. Their
big stadium as well, isn't it? I mean, for you know, for that to be an all-ticket, it's not like it's a tiny little stadium.
Yeah, it's going to be a sellout, and you know, real kind of. I think there's Andy Simpson was obviously on with us myself and Mark last week was kind of talking about it. He's spoken to Aaron Chalmers down at Bury, and there's quite a few players who've played for each club as well, so it adds that little extra bit of spice, which is always interesting. But yeah, FA Cup back, which is, you know, as we talk about every year, there will be somebody playing this weekend who will, you know, whether they reach the first round or not, they'll get through a couple more, and they might get that really big draw with a big step 3 gun or a step 2 side, and then maybe even get to that 4th round qualifying and get a National League giant as well. But with that first round as being the ultimate goal. But talking of North East strikers, though, Mark, it was good to see another one scoring on Saturday. Macaulay Langstaff. For Millwall, that was you see when you sort of see that come up on the video printer, you couldn't help but sort of smile. Certainly in the office, we were like, you know, really pleased to see him get the winner at score for them at Norwich.
And Owen Bailey scoring twice for Doncaster Rovers as well, another former Gateshead player. But I mean, Macaulay's rise is just incredible, really. And you know, kind of we spoke about COVID quite a bit, haven't we? But pre sort of COVID, his career was sort of in the balance, I would say, in terms of where he was going to go. Was he going to end up just playing Northern Premier League or Northern League level even? And then I remember speaking to people in and around Gateshead, Ian Watson in particular, who's now South Shields manager, and he said as they were coming back kind of out of COVID, they had a friendly against Hebburn Town, I think it was, and he said, you need to come and watch because Macaulay Langstaff is just a completely different player. And you kind of brush it off to an extent and go, right, okay, I heard this before. Within the first 10 minutes, I remember watching going like, who is this? Because it didn't look like the Macaulay Langstaff from months earlier. And then obviously that season when Gateshead won the National League North, he just exploded. I mean, he was just goals left, right and centre and earned the move to Notts County. And you think, right, go and prove yourself at National League level. And he certainly did that in some fashion and earned a great move to Millwall. Maybe it didn't quite happen at first, but now he's got that goal under his belt. Let's hope he does kick on and impress this season. Yeah,
100%. Like you said, that COVID, he sort of just kind of really worked on himself, didn't he? He was able to make the most of that sort of full-time model that had at Gateshead to really sort of put the effort in, and it sort of kind of paid off instantly. But yeah, I think it's just great to see when, you know, former non-league players who, you know, real traditional sort of non-league players who've come through that route have really gone on and kind of got their rewards. And like you say, hope more of that comes. It's been a good week for former non-league strikers with Richard Kone going to QPR from Wickham as well. It sort of seems mad that he was only playing in the Essex Senior League sort of a couple of years ago, really.
Crazy.
So another unbelievable rise. And it's funny sort of seeing, you know, players that kind of gone on in our sort of time at the paper, like Charlie Austin, who went on now, is obviously back in non-league and was at Tottenham last year. Now he's signed for Basingstoke and scored on the opening day of the season for them. So it's a lot of people going around full circle. But yeah, great to have the season back, as we say. Great, thanks for joining us, chaps. Great to have you on. As I say, like and subscribe to this YouTube channel, and we'll see you all next week.